Good evening, and I also need to point out that Pete Hammond, who was masterful tonight, as always, he's been doing this. When I started as executive director of the film festival 16 years ago, you started doing it. So we've been doing this for 16 years. So here's to you. And this is such a special night because I see this film festival as celebrating artists but also to me it's about community and it's about family and as Pete mentioned, we honor Bruce a few years back. Laura has been such a dear friend of the festival. We've done Q&As at the Riviera Theater, and then your mom has been such a champion of what we do. And when we announced that we were honoring Laura, oh my goodness, and I lost now the text because we announced Laura and she immediately texted me, and that's where I'm trying to find. Bear with me, please. She said, "Dear Roger, my husband Robert and her father Bruce and I are so bowled over with pride about her work. Not only because she's a great actress, but also because, in my prejudiced opinion, she is truly a great daughter and a great mother, and truly a magnificent, caring, evolved human being, and I love her so much." And she continues, "And I appreciate the gift the universe gave her and all her efforts to share. Love, Diane." I'm very honored to introduce the presenter of the Cinema Vanguard Award to Laura Dern. His passion for storytelling in a worldwide scope is incomparable. He has given voices and exposure to revolutionary filmmakers like Alfonso Cuarón, Ava DuVernay, David Fincher, Noah Baumbach, and Martin Scorsese, among many others. Please give a warm Santa Barbara welcome to Netflix Chief Content Officer Ted Sarandos.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, everybody at the festival. What a great pleasure to be here. I'm a sometimes not often enough resident. I have a house in Montecito, and I think this is a little bit of heaven on earth here. So, and the idea that you have a film festival too, forget about it. I totally could have winged this. I totally could have come up here and talked to you for endlessly about Laura Dern and her art and her humanity, but I knew that you were going to hear a lot about her art, and I knew that you would immediately experience her humanity, like everybody who gets the pleasure of sitting with Laura for any length of time. So I really wanted to gather my thoughts, because I really wanted to get this right for her, because she is a great partner, and she's also an incredible friend and someone who's very important in our life. So Laura has so generously thanked me on so many stages this year that now I get to do something that I don't get to do often enough, which is to thank Laura Dern. On behalf of myself and on behalf of all the people who have been moved, inspired, and mesmerized by her work on screens big and small, since her first appearance, as you heard, at age 6, directed by Martin Scorsese, no less. Yes, that is Laura Dern, credited only as Girl Eating Ice Cream, under the direction of Scorsese, and getting to work with her iconic mother, Diane Ladd, for the first time. I bet when people saw that brief glimpse of her, they did what they did for every time they saw her through her entire coming of age, which is say to themselves, "Who is that?" Laura, in her scene-stealing youth, appeared both awkward and worldly, confident and complicated in Mask and Blue Velvet, working with Peter Bogdanovich and David Lynch, and becoming what every actor strives to be: a muse and a partner, a canvas and a brush, a tool and a weapon for the director to wield on the audience. Her connection with David Lynch would lead to 3 more mind-blowing collaborations and stands as one of Hollywood's great pairings. She seemingly exploded after Blue Velvet and would go on to make films with the likes of Paul Thomas Anderson, Clint Eastwood, Steven Spielberg, Jonathan Demme, Alexander Payne, Robert Altman, Greta Gerwig, among others, and of course what appears to be a Lynch-like connection that will spawn much more with the Oscar-nominated genius of Noah Baumbach. I do have to tell you personally, it was Smooth Talk that put Laura into my consciousness. Yeah, please. She was mesmerizing as this young woman on the edge of innocence. Roger Ebert wrote that she moved effortlessly from scene to scene, sometimes appearing to be 12, sometimes appearing to be 18, and completely convinced the audience of both. It was incredible to see how she could be both curious, scared, ready, cautious, reckless, all wrapped up into one teenage experience that is the nightmare of all parents, but she was the all-American girl. She exploded in roles that would challenge her and challenge audiences like Rambling Rose, Citizen Ruth, The Master, Wild, her remarkable turn in the Emmy-nominated The Tale. She would also slip so perfectly into Jurassic Park and Star Wars universes and thrill audiences around the world. She is too young and too vibrant to spend too much time looking back too far, but let's just talk about the last 2 years. Laura Dern has been an Emmy, Golden Globe, SAG Award, and Oscar nominee for different unique projects, from The Tale to Big Little Lies on television, and Little Women and Marriage Story, which I believe is a performance of a lifetime, on the big screen. I've had the pleasure of being close to Marriage Story from the very beginning. I, like Laura, read that script and cried like a baby. I knew that this role was written for her and that she brought that character to life like nobody else in the world could. Her performance animated Noah Baumbach's brilliant dialogue, and she's already been recognized with a Golden Globe, a Critics' Choice, a SAG Award, as well as nearly every Critics Association's prizes and praise. The genius of this performance is the very contrast of her performance in Little Women, where she portrayed a incredible patriarch caring about every detail of her young daughter's lives, while simultaneously in Marriage Story playing the very instrument that would tear a family apart. And somehow we love them both. Laura is a singular person and a singular artist. She is part of a Hollywood legacy. Of course, her parents are Diane Ladd and Bruce Dern, but she owns a legacy all of her own, on screen and in our world, where she is a fearless warrior for causes that matter to all of us, and as a mother with 2 amazing kids, Jaya and Ellery. I am so proud to be her friend, her fan, and the beneficiary of all the good that she brings into this world. I am also really proud to introduce the recipient of the 2020 Santa Barbara International Film Festival's Vanguard Award, the one and only, my friend, Laura Dern.
Thank you so much. I won't speak long because you got to have snacks at this point. How much more of me can you take? You guys have been so generous to spend this evening in this way. And so I want to thank the Santa Barbara International Film Festival for this amazing award. Roger Durling, Pete Hammond, Linda, and of course, Larry David. It was so exciting to see him here tonight. I never knew he was such a fan. But I will say, since you've gotten to know the story of my family and how much we care about art and the origin story of my life and these conversations about storytelling, as we were saying earlier this evening as we were walking in, right? They call it show business. So when I was a child, my dad introduced me to a man named John Calley. And I didn't know who he was. I was a little girl, and he explained to me that the work of this place called United Artists was the most important kind of art. And I was like, oh, what kind of art do they make? And he said, they make the art. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, the artist is not an artist without the champion of art, who is the true artist himself. And I always thought that was a really noble idea, but probably didn't exist until I had the blessing of meeting the extraordinary Ted Sarandos. And what he has done for film and television and for our great auteurs is mind-blowing. And I have watched it up front as he's protected and stood in front of his artists, including myself, in the most extraordinary ways. And I've watched artists fight just to try to get their story told and made. And he's just waiting with open arms to make sure artists get the stories told. The most important documentaries, the most important cinema, even the buying of theaters, so we don't lose them like he did with the Paris Theater in New York, which is just the greatest gift. So I feel honored to truly call him my family, my friend, he and his amazing wife and his children, and to get to make a film like this with him, and I pray so many others. And forget what you've heard him say tonight, because he's the only person who will ever be speaking about me for the rest of my life. Even on a date, he will show up at the dinner and repeat that to the gentleman across the table. But I thank you, Ted, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for sharing this amazing night with me. It really means the world to me, and it makes me so excited about acting. And I'm really, really grateful. Bless you all. Thank you. Thank you for loving movies.